Hello, tenthers. Wishing you all once again a very good morning, a very good afternoon, and a very good evening based on the time in which you will all be watching this video. I'm hoping you all are doing fine, you all are doing well, and you all are also making use of this time. You all are also keeping in touch with your studies. And well, next year you all won't be that lucky that you all won't be giving an exam, or you all will be exempted from giving 4 exams. So please keep on studying, please keep on understanding newer concepts and trying to just iron out your weaknesses and to build on your strengths. While we were okay, let us just come back to the first war of independence, that is the revolt of 1857. Now this revolt of 1857, we were doing about, or we were talking about the economic causes which did lead to the, or economic causes which caused such events which led to the happening of the revolt of the 1857. Now, when we are talking of the economic causes, we were done with the impoverishment of the cultivators, we were done with the ruin of the trade and handicrafts. Now, there was another very important reason. India was reduced to an agricultural colony of the Britishers. Now, whenever there is or whenever in a superior country invades or captures an inferior country, or there is no superior and inferior in that sense, it is the superior country which instills a sense of inferiority in the other country. So we call it the superior country which is dominating and the inferior country which is being dominated upon. So whenever there is such kind of a thing, the superior country will always be using the inferior country or the country which it has made a colony of, so as to improve its own economy and also for its own purposes and for its own profits. Over here also what was happening was same. The Britishers were using India as an agricultural colony. India was just a importer or an exporter of raw materials for England. And as we were discussing in the previous video, the exports which took out or which went out from India were nearly tax free, or the Indian government or the Indian East India Company which was over here, or whichever, it was not the East India Company which was the government over here. We have to understand that many of the places, many of the trading centers of the East India Company had Indian rulers over there, or the territory belonged to an Indian ruler. It was the Indian ruler was ruling just in name, and it was the main ruler was the Britisher. But still, the taxes did go to those Indian rulers, and the Britishers or the East India Company had manipulated those rulers so as to grant them trading or trading facilities which involved tax-free trades. And the exports which took place, or the exports which went out from India, the raw materials which went out from India were tax-free. The Europeans or the Britishers did not have to pay taxes to the Indian government over here. Now this resulted in a severe dent in the revenues of the Indian government. The Indian government did not get the revenue which it was to get from those trades which were happening. And this also, another thing to be kept in mind is that Bengal, which was the richest province of Mughal India, Bengal was in 1757, after the Battle of Plassey, was nearly captured in name by the Britishers or by the East India Company, and all the revenue collection of Bengal, the province of Bengal, that included or that includes today's modern day Odisha, modern day Assam, modern day Bihar, Jharkhand, and also Bengal alongside Bangladesh. So that the entire province, the entire revenue collection fell onto the Britishers after the Battle of 1757. Before 1757, the Britishers, when they used to come to India, they used to bring trade, or they used to bring silver and gold bullions. That is silver and gold rupee or silver and gold bricks. They used to bring in those things from, or those bullion from England. They used to use those bullion so as to buy the materials from India, buy the raw materials from India, and all those raw materials which they bought using those bullions in India, where the raw material were then sent back to England, and the raw materials got processed over there in the industries over there, and with that raw material they traded in the, or with the finished products they traded in different parts of the world. Also they traded with the raw materials in different parts of the world, earning profits. But after 1757, there was no incoming of silver or gold bullion into India. Why? Because all the revenue collection of Bengal fell onto the hands of the Britishers, and the East India Company started using Bengal's money, the revenue from the agriculture and the trading which was happening in Bengal. All that revenue went to the Britishers. Try to understand this. The Britishers were using the money of Bengal to buy goods from Bengal and to export it to different parts of the world, earning profits. So it was a win-win situation for the Britishers, and the real losers over here were the traders of India and the governments of India. So the Indians were denied of the revenue, and the East India Company had reduced India into into an agricultural colony, or to a colony which was providing only the raw materials, and the finished products used to come from England, and they used to be sold at very high prices, and there was no choice for the Indians to buy those. There was no choice actually for the Indians, because the Indian trade and handicrafts, those industries had been ruined by the policies of the Britishers, especially that of the East India Company. So over here there was another reason why people became angry with the Britishers, and there was widespread resentment against the Britishers. The next another thing is that you all wear denim jeans, maybe denim shirts, denim jackets. A very important component of that color over there is indigo. And okay, these days we do not use the agriculturally made or agriculturally produced indigo, but previously it was the agriculturally produced indigo which was used to dye clothes. And this indigo, now there was some kind of inhuman treatment which was happening to the indigo cultivators, or actually to the cultivators in the Bihar and the Bengal regions of India. The cultivators of the Bihar and the Bengal region, they were forced to cultivate indigo. Why? Because indigo was a cash crop, and there was much more profit in the trade of indigo. So the cultivators of Bihar and Bengal were being forced to cultivate indigo and not food crops. Now, why was this becoming a reason for anger, or why did this become a reason for the anger of the cultivators? It was so because if those cultivators were cultivating food crops, then they could use some part of that food crop. After selling it and after paying their revenues and the taxes, they could use some part of the cultivated food crop so as to feed themselves and their family. But now, as they were being forced to cultivate indigo, they had to purchase their food also from the outside market. And the indigo which they used to cultivate, they never got good prices for the indigo which they cultivated. The Britishers nearly took away those indigos for free. So there was, or the cultivators were facing a serious or severe loss over here, economic loss over here. That is why the cultivators were also angry against or with the Britishers. Next we have the annexation of the rent-free lands and the estates. Now previously the kings, the emperors used to grant lands to nobles, to different religious institutions, and those lands used to be nearly tax-free. So suppose I am a ruler, and you who are listening, I am granting you a land. You are a noble in my or you are a noble under my rule, and I am granting you a piece of land, maybe say suppose 100 hectares of land, and I say that that land for you is tax free. So you will not be having to pay any taxes, or you will not be giving me any kind of revenue for that land, or whatever that happens, or whatever is the cultivation going on in that land, that entire cultivation, whatever revenue will be collecting from the cultivators over there, that entire revenue will belong to you. I did not, or I am not going to tax you on that. So those were tax-free lands and the estates which were given to the nobles. After the Britishers, they set up the Inam Commission. Under this Inam Commission, people who could produce the deeds, or suppose if I am giving you a land, I also, because so as to preserve your land after I am gone, after I am no more the ruler, the next ruler may take away that land from you. So I will be granting you with a piece of paper under which or that will be signed under my hand and my seal, and it will be carrying the emperor's signature and the seal, and that thing, that will be the deed which will be protecting you from anyone trying to usurp your land. So the Britishers, under the Inam Commission which was set up, they asked all the people who had been granted such lands to produce their deeds. Now some lands had been granted 500, 600, 1000 years ago. Now those people could not produce deeds, because the deeds do, or we all know that we do misplace documents, we do misplace papers. So a document which may have been given 1000 years ago, 500 years ago, that or getting those documents does become a very hard job. and whoever were unable to produce those documents, their lands were confiscated. So the people who were nobles, people who were very rich, they suddenly became very poor. Why? Because all their taxes, all their revenues, all their money, all their income, all their land was taken away from them just because they could not produce deeds which had been given to them hundreds of years ago. Not to them actually, but to their forefathers. So this also became a very important reason why those people again turned against the Britishers. Not only those people, the people who were staying in those lands under that noble, those people were also most of the times evicted or moved out or removed from their lands. So even the people who were under the nobles, they also got angered by this, they also got dispossessed, and they also had to face many hardships because of these policies of the Britishers. That is why these people, when the revolt of 1857 happened, these people also rose up against the Britishers. Next, loss of livelihood. I had touched on this point previously when I said that after the Britishers came and after they started capturing more and more kingdoms and lands, they started or they after they captured one kingdom and they removed the emperor and the ruler of that kingdom, they also, while they were removing the rulers, they also denied the livelihood of so many people who were working under that ruler. So if I am a ruler and you who is listening is the East India Company or an official of the East India Company or the Governor General of the East India Company, you remove me from my throne. So when I go away from my throne, all the people who were working for me, all my soldiers, all the craftsmen, all the artisans, each and every person who was associated with my kingdom and with me being able to maintain my kingdom, all those people lose their livelihoods. So alongside me, who is losing my throne, there are so many thousands of people who will be losing their sources of income and their employment. So that does make people angry, very angry. And those people who lost their income and their livelihoods, they turned against the Britishers and they took up arms again when the revolt of 1857 happened. And lastly, under the economic causes, we have big famines. Now the Britishers or the East India Company actually, they were a trading company and they were a company who were looking for profits. Now when they were looking for profits, they could not look after the welfare of the people also. They could not maintain the middle path. They were trying to extract as much profit as they could because they were a corporate company, and like most corporates, they were much concerned about extracting profits rather than doing work for the welfare of the people. So the welfare of the people was completely ignored. The irrigation, cultivation, all of these things were ignored. Only the Britishers were interested in the tax collection and in the revenue collection. So in times when there was less amount, or even today, India is, or the agriculture of India is very much dependent on the monsoon. And in a year, there are years when the monsoon fails, we have such a drought-like situation in India, and the farmers of India face so much problems. If we are just thinking of that times, or we are thinking of the 19th century, now the Britishers or the East India Company who were ruling over us or over the Indians, they did not care much about famines, they did not care much about droughts. So whenever there was a drought-like situation, they never tried to reduce the taxes, or they never said that we will not be collecting the taxes. The tax collection used to happen as it was, be it a good year of cultivation or a year in which there was not much agricultural production. So these things, due to these policies of the Britishers, there were so many famines, and there was a very particular famine in Bengal which wiped out millions of people. So these were some of the famines, or these famines which wiped out people, which caused so much hardship and problems to the people of India. These things also again alienated the Indians from the Britishers and forced the people actually to take up arms. Why? Because they had to fight for their rights, they had to fight for their livelihood, they had to fight for their lives. So these people again took up arms against the Britishers when the revolt of 1857 happened. Now after this, we are left with the military causes, and we'll be doing the military cause, and under the military cause we'll be having the immediate cause, or the cause which actually fired up this revolt, and after that we'll be discussing about the different effects which this revolt had on India, and also on the rule which the British or which the East India Company had on over India. So till or today we'll be leaving it up to this. I hope that you all will be staying well, keeping in touch with your studies, and also being or please stay safe, be safe, and keep everyone around you safe. Thank you.